phone calls on the air, 613-789-6559, extension 2803, ottawa.morning@ctv.ca, by email or Facebook, CTV Ottawa Morning Live. And what we're talking about today, if you've ever been injured, you know the road to recovery can sometimes be a long one. It could mean you can't work for quite some time. And we're talking long-term disability today with Brenda Hollingsworth and Richard Auger as well. How long is someone commonly off before having to go on long-term disability? I'll start there.
Yeah, it really depends on the individual's contract. One of the things that's different about long-term disability than what we usually talk about is there isn't usually an incident, or there can be an accident, but sometimes it's an illness. There's not really like a date like there is for an accident. So your long-term disability policy, which is a contract between you and the insurance company, will say how long you have to be off before long-term disability kicks in.
I'm going to ask some questions that may seem like ignorant questions because I am ignorant to the subject. I don't know a lot about long-term disability.
Yeah, most people don't.
Would this insurance be through work, personal insurance?
So it depends. If you work for the federal government, like many people here, you probably have long-term disability. If you're a full-time employee there, you probably have it through them. Larger companies often offer long-term disability as an employee benefit. Whether you're unionized or not, you might have those benefits. If you don't work for that kind of employer, like us, Rich and I, we have our own personal long-term disability policy that we purchase from an insurance company directly. If you don't have employer-supplied long-term disability, you should buy some. It's expensive insurance. Like if you compare it to car insurance, it's expensive. But if you can't work, how are you going to meet your day-to-day needs? And if you're not working because you're sick, you really don't need that extra stress.
Not only that, if you think about if you aren't going to do it and you have people around you who care about you, think about the burden you're going to put on them because they will step up for you if loved ones do that for you. And it's so terrible when you are left helpless to not be able to help yourself ahead of time. This is the way to do it. What are some of the pitfalls you should be looking out for when you're looking for long-term disability?
Well, really, you want to make sure you buy enough that you can sustain a basic level of life. So you need to know what your general monthly expenses are, and what would you need to be able to continue to pay your mortgage, continue to put food on the table, that kind of thing. The amount of insurance they'll sell you is relative to your salary. So if you make $40,000 a year, you can't insure yourself for $100,000 a year.
You can't get a raise
for being sick. Yeah, so generally speaking, the maximum you can get is a percentage of your salary. And really, you should buy as much as you can afford. We see the difference in our accident practice. People who have long-term disability manage much better than people who don't.
How long is someone typically, I know they all range, but is someone typically off before that triggers a long-term disability?
Yeah, well, some employers offer short-term disability, right? Or, your sick leave. Other employers require you to go on employment insurance sick leave, which is 15 weeks. So often there's a 15, sometimes there's a 21-week waiting period. Sometimes there's a 6-month waiting period.
I've heard of that too.
Yeah, so it really depends. And obviously, the longer the waiting period, the smaller the premium, right? That's something that you pay for. So if you've got a nest egg, maybe you can afford to extend it so that your premiums are less. But really, what matters is that ultimately you have it, and the higher the percentage of your salary, the better off you'll be.
As if being laid up and not able to work isn't your worst nightmare enough. Imagine being denied. We're going to talk about that. Richard will answer some of those questions as Auger Hollingsworth is in for Ask the Experts. If you have questions about long-term disability or anything else really, but that's what we're concentrating on today. Dial that phone, 613-789-6559, extension 2803, ottawa.morning@ctv.ca, or on Facebook, CTV Ottawa Morning Live.